Clovis was a French king that emerged out of Roman times, or came to the fore after, and he built the Abbey, the oldest church in Paris, to house a piece of the cross and a bit of the tunic of St. Vincent of Zaragoza, where the landlocked island that was French territory at the time was probably one of many fighting back the Muslims of the Iberian Peninsula. The meadow, the Pres, that was vulnerable for flooding other than where the Roman villa and the abbey were built, parallel to the river, so probably on a bit of a floodplain levee. But who was St. Vincent? Well, he was one of the best, really, for refusing to give in to threats or promises and burn his books. The Roman governor persecuting the Christians in Zaragoza. He had every sort of torture inflicted on Vincent. He was stretched on the rack and his flesh torn with iron hooks. Then his wounds were rubbed with salt and he was burned alive upon a red-hot gridiron. Finally he was cast into prison and laid on a floor scattered with broken pottery, where he died. During all this he persevered with such peace and tranquillity that his jailer converted. St. Lawrence was gridironed as well and converted his jailer. It was quite the way back then. A little bit like trying to get subscribers with the YouTube algorithm. A flock of ravens protected Vincent's body from being eaten by vultures, and then again when it was interred at Cape St. Vincent, the grave was guarded by ravens. Alfonso of Portugal had him exhumed and taken to Lisbon Cathedral. There is another bloodthirsty story linked to the revolutionary era. If you're any
Sacré Charlemagne, Sacré Charlemagne.
sort of a football supporter of a regularly losing team, you can perhaps identify with these torture stories. But Saint-Germain-des-Prés has got nothing to do with Paris Saint-Germain football team that's hereditarily excellent and reunites every racial group of Paris under one cause. Paris Saint-Germain is the religion of today. People wear their colours with pride. The PSG and the cock on their breast. Very unassuming from the outside, the Abbey of Saint-Germain-des-Prés, but the interior is a jewel of frescoes and colour. Every surface seemingly painted, and it's recent. 2017 to 2020, the murals of the nave were restored. They were late, lifelike. Frescoes anyway, and they really do now command your attention. They jump out. They're vivid and flamboyant. The dark lapis lazuli blue of the vaulting above your head helps make the church quite an intimate space. There's no real stained glass that hasn't gone to a museum before now. Churches, to my mind, they're always stone, and the colour is added with the stained glass. They're sombre, serious places. The inside of Saint-Germain-des-Prés, you think there's a party going on inside, even when it's pretty much empty of people. Hippolyte Flandrin, around 1850, was the original painter. They're based on a range of different styles, and you can't help but think it's a bit of a drama queen of a church. Perhaps it'd be in Soho, London, or perhaps more suited to the existentialist art and philosophy of Sartre and Beauvoir, of Beaux Arts and Sciences Po, the Café Margot and what have you outside were such a centre for. The drama queen of a church interior seems almost a little bit gay, or rather a lot gay. This is a Catholic church, and there is Jesus. But really, Hippolyte Flandrin chose Old Testament themes for the frescoes. It's confusing though, it seems almost modern and very ancient at the same time, which it is. It's like it's the original lineage of dramatic Montmartre Sacré-Cœur or the Lyon Cathedral Basilica Fouvrière, which, in private funds, act as gigantic ex-votos, thanking God for victory over the socialists and in expiation of the sins of modern France. I appreciate the Abbey of Saint-Germain-des-Prés as a city centre celebration, almost a place that would be great to go clubbing. But have I got it all wrong and it's just secular consumerism meets Catholic Catholicism, both of which everything's for sale, as it always has been. But I can't help but think that the Catholic Church are missing a trick. Under that lapis lazuli Madonna blue ceiling, a rave in the nave, in the enhanced way that people do these days, couldn't help but induce religious ideas and convert make-believers of all of us. Them, make-believers. Make-believers of them. In this reimagining of an Old Testament church that's only existed in post-Roman Christian times. In Britain there was a lot of reimagining of medieval. I just think the British reinvented it better. To pre-warn you, also known as the September Massacres, the Abbey during the Revolution 1792, group of about 100 priests who refused to sign a declaration of loyalty to the new revolutionary movement, being held in the Abbey prison, along with aristocrats who had been arrested by the Jacobins, the Swiss Guards who had survived an earlier massacre. There was a Prussian army approaching Paris, apparently. Georges Danton gave a speech on the Champ de Mars declaring, "We ask that anyone refusing to give personal service or to furnish arms shall be punished with death." His followers moved to the Abbey. The prisoners were quickly tried. They were asked, "Why were you arrested?" And then they were sentenced. 22 priests to death, a number of the Swiss Guards, and the Tuileries Palace massacre, and a number of aristocratic women, including Princess de Lamballe, who was still boasting about being a confidant of Queen Marie Antoinette. From Turin, she was a Savoy girl from Savoy. Sentenced to death, they were taken outside one by one, where they were killed by a crowd armed with swords, pikes and axes. Of the Swiss Guard prisoners, 135 were killed, 27 were transferred to fight in the French army, 86 were set free, and 22 had uncertain fates. It's recorded. Obviously now closed, the Abbey was used for storage and manufacturing gunpowder and arms. It was turned into a workshop for refining notre, an ingredient of gunpowder. It exploded, accidentally causing serious damage to the church and other Abbey buildings. Saltpetre leaking down into the foundations, damage again. But it very almost became nothing but a quarry, offers nothing particularly interesting regarding art. But because of its long history, it was re-established without the Chapel of the Virgin Mary. Some things went to Cluny Museum, some things came out of the Louvre. So bits of buildings from all over Paris, destroyed in the Revolution, were going towards the hodgepodge restoration of this church, Abbey. Of its once 3 bell towers, now there's only 1. The church was begun in Romanesque period and has been continually modified, making it a virtual catalogue of French religious architectural styles, from the Romanesque to the Gothic, Neoclassical and Gothic Revival, with the faces of the apostles smashed off with hammers, but not those that depict harpies, half woman, half bird, who symbolise storm winds. Griffins, Sphinx, acanthus leaves form the capitals. And it really does have the air of a Freemason's lodge or a Jewish synagogue. Colourful, melodramatic, real drama queen stuff. But while it's fresh, it doesn't have that foreboding. The small part of the Abbey that had been made available to pilgrims was destroyed by Viking invasions. The oldest part of the church, to the right inside the main entrance, contained the sarcophagus of Saint-Germain, the Saint-Germain of 573. Saint-Germain was from Burgundy. He was hard-working and austere, and his monks feared one day he would give away the wealth of the whole abbey, and they rebelled against him. He persuaded the king to stamp out pagan practices that existed all over Gaul, and to forbid the excess that accompanied celebration of most Christian festivals. But he couldn't stop the Norman invasions. Viking, Norman, same thing. Just the half Vikings of northern France. Until the Renaissance, Saint-Germain's relics, bits of him and his stuff, were carried around Paris in processions any time there was a plague or a crisis. But Saint-Germain also represents another myth, I suppose you'd say, and talented, snappily dressed immortal that has the gift of the gab and is loved by the ladies. And when you say that they come from the Romania area, it really does start to sound like a Dracula-like character. Oh, the flamboyant Gothic arches of the Chapel of the Virgin from the 13th century are displayed in the gardens in the square next to the church, opposite the Margot Cafe. The might-be proprietor Margot Robbie wasn't there in residence when I failed to be able to get a table for 1 for 2, hoping Barbie would join me. The stained glass window, scene of the death of Saint-Germain, is in Winchester College collection in England. Anything that could be sold got income for the revolution and the poor. Looters they'd have probably been called, wouldn't they? The cells, the prison that were part of the ancient abbey, was known for its extremely poor condition, very humid, abominable. Soldiers incarcerated for minor offences had to go to Val de Grace Hospital to recover from their imprisonment. Who wouldn't want to imprison a priest there? The sans-culottes of the revolution certainly wanted to. Sans-culottes translating more or less as without fancy pants. All they were asking for was an oath of allegiance. But all over Paris, priests were remaining loyal to their fancy pants benefactors rather than to the majority. The prison's now hardcore and underneath the Boulevard Saint-Germain, if your heart's bleeding for a Catholic priest. Beyond
Without you, life is just a never-ending emptiness.
Beyond the Abbey, though, in Saint-Germain, Les Deux Magots, and Café de Flore, and Brasserie Lip are the big famous ones. It was partly down to the meeting places, the largely clandestine gay community of Paris, which frequented the likes of the Café de Flore and Café Carrefour, all-night restaurants. There were low rents in the area, and the soldiers, international soldiers, liked the cafes and bars after the war. Le Vieux Colombier, Rose Rouge, Club Saint-Germain, Le Tabou. It was traditional New Orleans jazz and bebop.
Now I see it was you and
Not 2 Margot Robbies, sorry, I misled you. Or even 2 Monies, which would make sense considering how many weights and measures they were around France at the time. And for centuries, 2 Chinese figurines from the novelty shop that was on the same premises previously. Maggots or frogs' legs, right, having started at the Saint-Germain-des-Prés church itself. With the King Queen in the old Knights Templar towers, and the prisons all around Paris getting full, a delegate with a band of criminals with pikes and axes would go to each of the prisons, and afterwards they wouldn't be so full anymore. You didn't think that the aristocrats were all dealt with by the guillotine, did you?